The hospital hallway was silent, but in that quiet, a small, desperate sound echoed a soft whimper that no one seemed to notice. Mariah Holt's hands shook as she gripped the edge of her daughter's wheelchair, her heart pounding in a way that felt louder than the fluorescent lights overhead. "She can't see," Mariah whispered to herself, though no one around her could hear. She had spent the last 7 years of her life protecting Clara from the world, from its harshness, from the cruelty she had seen in so many people's eyes, and now, in this very hospital, she was about to make a decision that would haunt her forever. Before we go further, if you believe in kindness and second chances, take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Midnight Reports, because this story is about seeing beyond what meets the eye. Clara, blind since birth, sat quietly in her wheelchair, her tiny hands resting on her lap. She had never known the colors of autumn leaves or the brightness of the morning sun, but she had a spirit as vibrant as any child who could see. Her mother, however, carried the weight of overprotectiveness like armor. Every glance, every smile from strangers was a calculated risk. And when Mariah noticed Mr. Jonas, the hospital janitor, shining a flashlight at her daughter during one late evening cleaning, something inside her snapped. She didn't know why she felt the surge of anger. Perhaps it was the fear of the unknown. Perhaps it was the way her daughter's face had tilted toward the light as if it were calling her. Whatever it was, Mariah saw it as interference. The next day, she summoned the hospital administration and requested that Mr. Jonas be dismissed. She called him reckless, careless, and inconsiderate, painting a picture that was only partly true. And Jonas, a quiet man with gray-streaked hair and eyes that seemed to hold the kind of patience most people forgot existed, left without argument, his head bowed, but his heart heavy. Mariah told herself it was for Clara's safety, but at night, when she watched her daughter fidget in bed, reaching out blindly to the familiar shapes of her room, guilt began to gnaw at her. She tried to convince herself that Jonas's departure was the right decision, but she couldn't shake the uneasy feeling that maybe, just maybe, she had misunderstood him. Weeks passed, and the hospital seemed quieter without Jonas. The janitor had been a fixture there for decades, a gentle presence who never hurried, never demanded attention, never complained. Patients would tell stories about his kindness, how he would quietly guide a lost visitor, or hum a lullaby to a scared child in the neonatal ward, but Mariah had only seen the flashlight incident. And in her mind, that was enough to condemn him. Then, one evening, an unexpected incident shattered her carefully constructed certainty. Clara, curious and brave in ways that often surprised her mother, had managed to wheel herself down the corridor alone. She had gone far, guided only by the echoes of footsteps and the hum of machines. Mariah found her sitting near the hospital fountain, tears streaking her small face. "I wanted to see the lights," Clara whispered, her voice trembling, "but I got lost." In that moment, Mariah realized how fragile her world had been for her daughter. It was a moment that demanded more than fear or anger. It demanded understanding, reflection, and perhaps, forgiveness. She thought about Jonas and wondered what he might have done if he had been there. The answer came sooner than she expected. A nurse told Mariah that someone had left a small stack of brightly colored tactile books and soft, glowing toys in Clara's room, things meant to help her learn about light, shadow, and shapes in ways that didn't depend on sight. There was no note, no name, but Mariah's intuition whispered who it was. She felt a pang of shame that cut deeper than any punishment she could have imagined. One evening, she decided to confront her mistakes. She walked through the hospital corridors, past rooms filled with the low hum of beeping machines and murmured conversations. She found Jonas near the maintenance closet, his posture tired but dignified, his hands carefully wiping down a mop bucket. "Mr. Jonas," she began, her voice shaky, I need to talk to you." He looked up, and for a moment, his expression was unreadable. Then he nodded slightly, as though he had been expecting this moment all along. Mariah felt tears welling up, not just for herself, but for her daughter, for the lost time, and for the understanding that had come too late. I fired you," she admitted, her voice barely more than a whisper. "For shining a light at Clara. I thought you were being reckless. But now I see that you were helping her see the world in your own way." Jonas's eyes softened, and he reached out to gently touch her hand. "Mariah," he said, "Clara doesn't need someone to protect her from light. She needs someone to help her feel it, understand it, and love it. I've always tried to see her, not as blind, but as full of possibilities." Mariah felt a flood of emotions, guilt, relief, awe. She realized then that Jonas had understood something fundamental that she had missed: true vision is not always in the eyes, but in the heart. She begged him to come back, not as a janitor, but as a guide, a mentor, someone who could teach Clara about the textures of light, the music in shadows, and the warmth in colors she couldn't see. As Jonas returned to the hospital, Mariah began to notice the small miracles unfolding around her daughter. Clara learned to navigate the corridors with a newfound confidence. She laughed as the soft, glowing balls rolled across the floor, and she traced the contours of colorful tactile books with delicate fingers, her smile bright enough to light up the entire hospital. Mariah watched in awe, feeling as though she had been blind herself all these years, blind to the generosity, the kindness, and the extraordinary vision of those who see with their hearts. Word spread through the hospital about Jonas's unique approach, and soon, other children began seeking him out. The hospital became a place where sight was no longer the measure of understanding. Patients, families, and staff marveled at the transformations, some subtle, some profound, but all fueled by a single man who understood the quiet power of truly seeing. One rainy afternoon, Mariah sat by the fountain with Clara in her lap, watching raindrops ripple across the water. "Mama," Clara said softly, "I can feel the colors in the rain." Mariah's eyes welled up with tears, and she held her daughter close. For the first time, she understood that her love had been limited by fear, but Jonas's presence had expanded it in ways she never could have imagined. Months passed, and Mariah became a quieter, humbler version of herself. She learned to watch, listen, and trust not only her instincts but also the instincts of those who had wisdom she could not yet comprehend. Jonas remained a steadfast guide for Clara, patient and gentle, his quiet acts of kindness now celebrated openly. And in those acts, Mariah found a profound lesson: the world is full of light, even for those who cannot see it with their eyes. Near the end of one particularly vibrant spring day, as Clara laughed chasing the sound of the wind against the hospital walls, Mariah turned to the camera of a small device she had set up for documenting their journey. "If this story touched your heart," she said, voice trembling with emotion, "please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Let kindness be seen, let second chances be given, and let love guide every action you take." And just before the video cut to black, she added one final thought, softly, almost as a prayer: "May we all remember to truly see each other, and may our hearts always guide the light we shine in this world." Mariah's story, Jonas's patience, and Clara's courage became a quiet legend at the hospital, a reminder that seeing goes beyond the eyes, that understanding goes beyond words, and that sometimes, the greatest gifts are given by those who notice what most of us miss. In the end, Mariah realized that firing Jonas had been her wake-up call, but forgiving herself and embracing his wisdom was her true awakening. She learned that love is not about controlling the light around us, but about letting it shine where it is needed most, and in that light, Clara flourished, Jonas found his purpose fulfilled, and Mariah finally understood the meaning of vision, the kind that comes from the heart.